Listen, Leicester don't owe Mahrez anything. You would say they got him for a good price, 400,000, probably made him what he is in the Premier League. But I believe if Mahrez was good enough, somebody else would have picked him up by Leicester. Because if you're performing well in the French league, somebody will pick you up because it's a good market for clubs to go into and find talent. He was certainly one. Went there for £450,000 and performed exceptionally well. PFA Player of the Year 2 years ago, helped them win the Premier League. Stayed for the Champions League campaign, and now you've got to look at it from his point of view as a player. He's had an opportunity to go and play with some of the best players in the world, be coached by probably the best manager in the world. People will say he's got on his contract out, he's under contract, so he should get his head right and go back and perform. But it's not as easy as that sometimes. Yeah, I was in a similar situation at Birmingham Blackburn Rovers. I set my heart, my goal, my dream was to go and play for Mark Hughes, and I'd done everything I could to force that move through wrongly. I've admitted on this show before that I had a month to get out of that football club and I was a disgrace. I kicked the ball away. We've been through it, but I got what I wanted. Everybody's different. Stevie might not have done that, might not have done that, but that was my dream. It was like going to the shop, buying a lottery ticket and winning it. Not in terms of financial, but everything I wanted. And I think Mahrez now be in a position where he believed that £60 million, where Leicester would have made 59 million quid, their valuation might have been 75. So if their valuation has not been met, Mahrez will stay, and he stayed. But what is the point of having a player there whose head's been turned, might not be in the right frame of mind? He's got to go back there now. They've got to convince him to perform. But it's like he might have gone to get that lottery ticket, lost it. He'd be sitting at home now thinking, I had the lottery in my pocket. Not in terms of financial, but everything. The best players in the world. Champions League football, winning trophies. And I think he's given everything to Leicester he possibly could. Performed on a weekly basis. And now is going to go back and try and perform for Leicester.
Just to take you back there, Robbie, and it's not about you, but do you regret that? Forcing a move in the way you did? Because I personally feel it's you regret it. Well, yeah. I'm glad you've said that, because I think he'll regret that. His behaviour, the way that he's been in all this period. What he's done for Leicester, of course, is without doubt. But what they've done for him, they've really put him on the map. He's a legend at that club forever for what they've achieved there. Players will never do that again at Leicester. And I just feel it's a bit disappointing. Maybe it's an educational thing to disappear for 2 or 3 days. The manager's Puyal's doing everything to say he's a good guy. Well, he's not completely a good guy, because you don't behave like that. This day and age. He needs to come back to Leicester, get on with his football. I knew this was going to be an issue. The player had a chance, but I think in Barcelona he wanted to go to as soon as they were champions. He was persuaded to stay. I think Liverpool were interested. Arsenal have been sniffing around. He is a great talent. He's developing under Puyal. He's getting better every week. But now I think he's got his due. He's got to come back. He's got to get back into heel. And they'll sell him. They'll sell him in the summer. And if you're a good player and you've got good quality, the big clubs will come calling again.
If he goes back and performs, if he goes back then, gets his head right and performs, and performs amazingly well again, what if that price goes up? Because the performance being that good, the price goes up.
Well, it shouldn't
their valuation from 75 to 100. And then they say, somebody offers 80, well, we're not going to let him go this summer.
It's about him realising how good he is. Maybe he's thinking he's trying to cash in. How does that look for a club that's trying to buy him in his behaviour?
But the best team one of the best teams in the world at the minute once Riyad Mahrez, and for him as a player, Martin, he's got an opportunity. He's desperate to go and play for Pep Guardiola.
They've allowed Drinkwater to go, they've allowed Kante to go, they've allowed Vardy to have talks.
Kante had a clause, so I accept that.
And he thinks it's personal, but it's not personal. He's a very good player, and why should Leicester allow him to leave if they don't want to? It's testing the player. He'll get his move eventually, but while he's there, I think he needs to behave in a slightly better way than he has.
You're right there, Stephen.
I never thought I'd say it, but I'd like to hear a bit more from Robbie Savage and Ryan Keelan. I'm quite enjoying this.
You agree with me?
Do you want me to get in the middle?
Jake, but I just think that for Riyad Mahrez's perspective, right?
I think you both got a point, to be honest. I get it. Yeah. Man City, top move for Mahrez, the chance to work Guardiola. I get all that side of it, but I agree with you, Martin, as well. I don't like players when they're unprofessional and they start not turning in for work and disrespecting the supporters and disrespecting the club that have been good to the player as well. So you're both right on both sides of it. At the end of the day, I think Mahrez's people have got to go to Leicester and come to a sensible conclusion, because at some point he's going to leave the club. I look at the Coutinho situation at Liverpool. Barcelona comes, it's a dream move, OK. Liverpool want him to stay till the end of the season, but Coutinho thinks it might be his only opportunity. But Coutinho stayed professional. He got his people to go and speak to Liverpool, and he was a compromise, and everyone moves on in a nice way. This is just a mess now for Leicester City.
Well,
and I don't think they deserve it.
Hasn't he? And he's got to perform in front of his crowd.
Leicester don't deserve the mess,
I think there's a couple of options here. As you're saying, Riyad Mahrez's people go to Leicester. He's got a couple of years left and say, right, tell you what, you know, if he comes back, if it's a ridiculous statement, because that could happen. You know, he could not turn up and he could get fined so many hundreds of thousands of pounds. But in today's game, we all know some players could go back and say, you know, I'm anxious, I'm injured. You know, it can happen. I've seen it. You know, I've seen people do it. Or they could say, I tell you what we'll do. If he comes back, this is what could happen, and as Stevie says, let's renegotiate his contract and have a clause in it for 50 million quid.
It's refreshing, though, that it's all about player power nowadays, and the club have said, you know what, we'd rather have the player than the money. Clearly, he's going to go in the summer, and we'll go on our terms. And not on the players. It came so late, didn't it? In the
that was one of the big issues for Leicester, is that they actually made it clear. They said, if we get an offer that matches our valuation, we won't stand in the way of the player. But you've just spent 10 minutes telling us that he's a consistent player and he's a brilliant player and he's won the Premier League and, you know, he's won more than Virgil van Dijk. The stats tell us that he was better than Coutinho at times over the last year and a half. And you end up wanting Leicester to accept less than he's worth. You said in your own column he's worth 75 million quid, so why should Leicester take less? That's their valuation.
It's in my opinion what he's worth, Jay. I don't know what Leicester value him at.
Well, obviously more than 65 million, so there's the end of the conversation, isn't it?
Well, that's up to Leicester and Riyad Mahrez. But
the one
he
thing
had an opportunity. So Sane's got injured and he might be out for 4 to 6 weeks. One opportunity. Pep Guardiola at Man City might not want Riyad Mahrez in the summer. What if his form dips? And he doesn't get an opportunity ever again as a player. Not to. And I know what Stevie's saying about Coutinho. Coutinho's playing for a massive football club in Liverpool. We're talking about Liverpool Football Club here to Barcelona. Leicester City won the Premier League 2 seasons ago. They're not going to win a trophy again, in my opinion. They play weak. I don't think they will. They play weakened sides in the competition. They had a chance in the Carabao Cup against Man City. They play a weakened side. Went out. They left Mahrez and Vardy out against Peterborough. You might say they've got to win Peterborough.
I think one thing...
What's Leicester's aim?
Can I speak?
Yeah, what's Leicester's aim?
One thing that I think they have done, Leicester, and they've underestimated the reaction of the player, because he's thrown his toys completely out of the cot. And that's not good for the group that exists at the club.
I don't think it's good for the player either, because other teams are going to think, well, that's what type of player we could be buying.
Well, let's move this on then. The three of you, between you, have played hundreds and hundreds of top-class football games. Do you see a situation where Riyad Mahrez can come back into the fold and perform for Leicester like he has previously? Can he be rehabilitated from this situation? Remember, in the summer, he was sitting at an airport waiting to get a move, wasn't he? That never transpired, so this isn't new.
I think only the player knows that himself.
But from what you've seen and what you know...
He's capable of it, of course he is. He could turn up tomorrow, train well, and play on the weekend and play well. But
the manager's making it possible for that to happen. He's saying what a good guy he is. He's, you know, the manager's Puyal's doing well. He's trying to manage it through. But if he continues to stay away from the football club, we get another week where he doesn't turn up. One only knows where it could end up. But he's made a case for, I've got to leave this football club. I'll come back eventually, but I need to leave.
One thing will happen, Jake. The players, I believe, I'm sure that if he goes back, the players will have a laugh and a joke with him. They'll have great banter with him. That's what happens in dressing rooms. So people say, well, the players might discard him, but
they'll all be texting him anyway, won't they?
Correct. I'm sure there's banter going on between them all his mates. I know he's lost the man.
Are we also slightly belittling Leicester? Because I don't remember criticism of Southampton when they didn't allow Van Dijk to join Liverpool. I don't remember criticism of Liverpool when they said no to Coutinho getting the move the first time around and asking him to wait. You know, Leicester have stood their ground. We spend all our time saying that players have got too much power in football. Suddenly a club do something that they believe is absolutely right for their principles. And
I'm just talking from a player's point of view.
But you're not the only one, though. Lots of people... I had people the other day saying, they should let him go for 40 million. It's like, he's a top-quality player, and the numbers now are up here, so you've got to pay.
If you look at the City situation, I mean, if they're allowed to just buy their way to success, I think it takes a bit of an edge, actually, off Guardiola's management, because he just goes and buys another player. As soon as he gets another one injured, that's not good for the Premier League. And I think what they've done, Leicester City, has just said, no, we're for our own reasons, but I think it helps the rest of the Premier League that they didn't allow that transfer to happen.
People are piling in on social media. Onomi says, I totally agree with Robbie Savage. This is the second time Leicester have treated Mahrez badly. They should understand that he wants to grow and develop himself. How much more do Leicester want from him? James Lee, he says, Leicester would have made £64 million profit. To stop a player moving to a club miles ahead of them is wrong. He will never be the same player for Leicester now. They are in the wrong. PM Legend said, the fault is not with Leicester. If Mahrez wanted to leave, City needed to come in for him sooner so they could find a replacement. Leicester have a Sanchez situation on their hands, says Leon, and Hegsy says Leicester fans accept Mahrez will go eventually, just pay his price. You don't go into a car garage and offer 50k for a 100k car because you don't get it.
How have they treated him badly? They've given him an opportunity to come from nowhere to become a Premier League legend at Leicester City. Say no more. They plucked him from nowhere when nobody wanted him, nobody loved him. And the player now can see an opportunity to get vast riches way beyond his dreams.
But somebody would have taken him, sure.
Behave himself in the right manner.
But somebody would have taken him.
Interesting.
Somebody would have taken him because he's good enough. So if you're good enough, in my opinion...
Eventually they will. He doesn't need to
Do you think maybe his biggest fear is that he sees that this City thing has come about because of the injury to Sane and he just fears that this might not happen again?
Maybe.
No, he will believe that he's good enough to go there and do well.
Well, then he has to play and he has to play well.
Instead of Sterling. And you see that miss Sterling had today, maybe he's right.
Yeah, but he's been in good form, Sterling. You can't just judge him on one sitter today.
Of course.
You know, though, the best way out of this for everybody is for him to come back in the team and play as well as he's always played. There needs to be a compromise between
the club and the player. So the club get him till the end of the season and then the player gets his move.
I know it's not about me, as Martin said, but I'm just trying to give people a perception there. If I hadn't got my move to Blackburn, I could never have been the same at Birmingham under Steve Bruce. Right. You know, not because I'm a wrong one, and not because I love football, and everybody's a different type of character. I'd have been anxious, nervous. That dream I had would have, I believe, somebody would have stopped me from getting, even though Birmingham would have been in their right, because they'd have just had a new 4-year contract. But it was everything I wanted.
And
would you refuse to play? Would you not?
I wouldn't refuse to play, Stevie, no, but I would just felt in my head that, you know, how can people stop me from getting my dream? Do you know what I mean? It was my last opportunity. But
would you have sort of been happy with a compromise if the club said, look, not now, but maybe
I could have gone the summer, I'd have been happy with that,
And I think sometimes that is the best solution when you get a Sanchez case or a Coutinho case or a Mahrez case. I don't think anyone benefits from him staying off work and creating a fight and a mess because no one wins from it.
I thought it was because it was nearer to home or something, wasn't it?
It was, unbelievable.
Well, it wasn't, but even
Birmingham were better off.
I think the only other topic of conversation here is Manchester City coming in really late with this offer. It almost feels like they thought, do you know what, we're Man City, so we'll offer some money. The player will be so desperate to come and join us, he'll force his way out and we'll get the player at the last minute.
They can do it.
Of course they can, but then so Man City are allowed to offer money for a player late in the window, but Leicester aren't allowed to say no to the player.
Yeah, I said they are. Leicester are allowed to turn it down. Of course they are, but Man City can bid for anybody they want in the world.
Of course they can, but if they'd have bid early, they probably would have got their player because it would have allowed Leicester.
Wasn't injured.
You know, would have left them time to go and get.
He got injured late in the FA Cup.
Yeah, but the minute that injury happened, the bid should have come in, given them another couple of days. No.
Why is it? They can bid when they want.
I blame Sanchez in all this. Why not? Let's just blame him because if he'd have gone to City, none of this would have happened. And it's interesting, if they'd have waited another week on this one and that deal wasn't tied up with Sanchez, then they would definitely have gone for him City because they're throwing money to get Mahrez a week later as soon as they lost Sane.
It's a good debate. I enjoyed that. Thank you for bringing your passion to the table, Robbie. It was very interesting. Right, lots.